Well, obviously, I don't fully know what I'm doing here, but I had this idea to just like sit down and have conversations. And the reason why is that like whenever when I look at YouTube or I look at like social media, I'm finding all of these guys like influencers like speaking, but the stuff that they're talking about is like it's all random, it's all entertainment a lot, and which is like cool, but I just found that there's a lot of space where there's like a lot of space that's open to put stuff in there that's like worthwhile, for young people to engage with, like where people are having actual conversations and about I would say like more important stuff or more mind bending and
Meaningful.
challenging stuff. Yeah. Uh, the purpose of that is like when I was younger, I had to make a very conscious decision to try and engage with people about certain subjects to learn, whether it's politics, whether it's psychology, all of those things. But I just obviously have an interest in those things. They don't just find me, I find them. But I think it would be cool if there's a platform where a relatively young person such as myself is engaging in such topics with other young people and younger people than us get to engage with that content rather than just have entertainment and stuff like that thrown at them all the time. And there's no space for other young people to exercise their curiosity if they have it. So, and one thing, like I know we always have really nice conversations where we end up just like arguing and it's cool. And I think that's also healthy, like for young people to learn how to have difficult conversations and have whatever information they have get trialed, like for someone to pull every nook and cranny out of what you know, and then it gets better, you understand it better because you are engaging with it. You develop maybe a more concise language around it
Yeah.
because now you've given me an idea about how you think about this thing, and then I add it to my vocabulary around the subject, and the next time I communicate it with a little bit more like a better, it becomes a more
Just takes shape
yes,
from one dimensional to
yes,
and it becomes your own. I think the more you think about things, they start to become your own idea instead of copying
yes,
someone's idea. So that grows as you develop it.
yeah.
Look at me doing Peterson hands.
Yeah, and I think yeah, bro, and like I mean, this is obviously the very first time that I'm doing this and having someone with me, and like the reason for that is that like you've always had like this way of communicating what you think, and you have a curiosity that you exercise well in conversation, and you take a stance in whatever you believe until like I really come with evidence to support why you should change your mind. And I think I'd have the same respect for you, which is like cool. And I think that's the thing that I'm trying to portray. And then you also have like a lot of experience in leadership, like religion, ethics, like and for a young person
Yeah,
who's
some
also
pressure,
concise with with how they communicate, I think yeah, there couldn't have been a better person to start this with. So thank you for saying yes, and thank you for being here. So I'm just gonna maybe ask you to tell a little bit of a story. Like, I mean, I met you in 2016, and like at one point we shared a room, and we would go late into the night just talking about the most
just
random
talking
things and getting in
smack.
depth with anything. So maybe like a backstory of who you are, where you're from, and like what you do now, and what are you trying to achieve with your life, and along the way, what have you learned? Who are the people that you've carried, and who are the people that have carried you?
Okay, how long do I have?
Just go.
Okay, so my name is Lutho Ngebeza. I was born in the Eastern Cape, 1990. Should I say? I won't say I'm a young person, but in the 90s, that's the cool young. So born in the 90s, I spent the first 6 years of my life in the Eastern Cape in a little town called Butterworth. I nearly said Bethlehem. Because it's a big town.
That's great.
Yeah, and then we moved to a small, speaking about people that have had, or places that have had an influence on my life, we moved to another small town called Port Edward here in KZN.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's where like a lot of the molding and developing has happened. Obviously, Eastern Cape had its own part to
Yeah.
play in that, and I remember things from there, and it was like fun and cool and all this that stuff. But yeah, moved to Port Edward. I did primary school there, and yeah, in some sense, I want to say that's where I started to develop my identity, because I don't want to say that's where I found myself. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I in primary school was a lot about sports for me, so I got to explore sports, and I think the nice fun thing about it is that my mother never, black parents, they don't want you to play inside, so they always like,
Yeah.
"Hey, go play outside, go play outside."
They like their clean house.
Yeah, and the story doesn't end in me being a sports superstar, by the way. I just just like sports, and she liked me playing outside, or liked us playing outside. I've got a younger brother who was a year behind me, so that was helpful. We, I think, have like built each other up by being so close and competing, and just pushing and trying new things, and luckily having like the same mindset. My sister is 4 years older than me. Is like a little bit different from the two of us.
Yeah.
And I'd say like she's the way we didn't go, and that's not a bad thing. She
Yeah.
just, so typical example is that like somewhere along the way in primary school, someone shows up and teaches us to swim, and that becomes a part of our development, and then more people show up who are now super close friends. We've met the crazy whites from the South Coast.
Yeah.
That's the people that in some sense raised me. So I spent a lot of time, like if we had competitions, they'd host me at their houses. We were just friends as well every other day, hanging out. That's the people that had a massive impact on my life. So I'm thinking about like the host family.
Yeah.
We've met Paul's, Wesley and his crew, Bao Chops, all these people that I just started.
Yeah.
So and now I'm contrasting myself to other black people, but not in a good or bad way.
Yeah.
Just people
Just-
that were my friends before that time.
Yeah.
So me and my brother went into swimming with the white guys. Then we started life saving and nippers, and then we were surfing, and there was another guy called Azza as well. Shame soul, rest in peace.
Yeah.
But so we sort of started moving together and doing that stuff. Moved to Durban for school, which is also a different idea, because most people just go to the local schools and carry on that way.
Yeah.
We wanted to play sports competitively, so we all came up here.
Came
My
to a bigger pool.
Yeah, my brother was in Northwood, I was at DHS, Azza was at DHS. And yeah, more development. I wouldn't say I didn't have really, really close friends in high school, but I'm using the word guardian angels loosely,
Yeah.
because you meet people that look out for you
Yeah.
all along the way. And so there was this Congolese family when I was living in the city. Those guys became really good friends.
cool.
And I was living in a flat essentially alone. And yeah, they lived downstairs, and they were, really looked out for me. Happened to have similar ideas, were a bit reasonable for like the environment, because
Yeah.
a lot of the kids are like a little like paper gangsterism,
Yeah.
like experimenting with weed and other stuff. They were a little bit more like me, so we dabble and then retract and pull back to center,
Yeah.
dabble, pull back. We always had like a bit of a reasonableness about us. Yeah, finished at DHS. I tried a year of university. I didn't want to be there. That's part of the thing. And then the second half is that it was expensive. And then, I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So then I stopped after the first year because I was in debt and I didn't want to be there. Just two good reasons to stop. My mother wanted me to carry on. I didn't. Then the church journey kind of started, also by accident, but it started. I don't know if you want me to get into it. It's just a passing thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, if it's up to you, if you feel like there's some nuggets that you want to throw in from that part of your life. I mean, I'm sure it's heavily influenced the both of us, because I've also been in that.
So, that's the thing. I think, so I knew Mike from high school, and then I meet Mike on the street, which is going to add to how I meet you in some sense. And I meet Mike on the street, he invites me to church. I never go for like the whole year that I'm at DUT. I was playing rugby and smoking weed. And then the next year, I happens to have time, and I start going. And then I'm like, I invite my brother, because I'm like, wow, this place is crazy. I go back, and we hadn't experienced church like that. And then Ndo comes, he's our other roommate at the time. So now three of us are like super loving church. And then we're attending life group as well. We're hanging out with Mike a lot of the time again. And that's where the opportunity to work there comes up. And I said to them, I'll come for a year because I'm upgrading my marks.
Yeah.
But I'm not here to stay. I want to go to Stellenbosch. I wanted to go play rugby in Stellenbosch. And then, hey, what are we now? 9, 10 years later.
Yeah.
I only stopped working there last year. So that's a long story short. And then a few years after me going to church and meeting Mike, and then not even a few years later, it's a short while later, then you sort of also, it's like the paths collide. So I meet Mike on the street, you come to church, and I meet you in that way. And I'll let you tell your own story. But yeah, and that's, now I work for a life skills and leadership development company. I write content, lead camps, and then all the other general stuff, because it's still a small thing. And the way I want to spend my life, I've been trying to figure this out lately. I want to, 1, make an impact on education. 2, make an impact on, when I say education, I'm specifically in previously disadvantaged areas or in the black community, to say it plainly. 2, I want to do specifically youth stuff. So I want to have, the big dream is if I could have a sports center.
Oh, that's cool.
Or a youth and sports center that's got space for youth, like church, homework center, sports facilities, gym, all, all encompassing, but all aimed and aided at looking after young people. Yeah, so that's I always dream about winning the lotto, and it's changed from wanting G-Wagons and all this stuff to going, how can I buy a big piece of land and build a warehouse and start doing that.
Yeah,
so that's that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah,
I've got a hot girlfriend as well.
That too.
She's also super smart and funny. She's guy funny. Don't put that on tape.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, bro. I mean, like, I do have similar aspirations as well. I think it does come from the fact that we entered into the church scene, working for church and doing all that from a young age, and your worldview changes quite a bit. I had to learn how to play guitar and play piano and do all of those things and push myself to become a worship leader and do anything and everything that I felt or deemed necessary to get to a position where I become a worship leader. I had to do that myself. I had to sort of inspire myself and I know that there was inspiration from the Holy Spirit and God empowered me and everything, but the decision making was still a lot, mainly mine, right? But I always go, if there were people around me that met me maybe earlier and maybe started investing heavily into those pockets of interest in my life, I think I would be much further ahead than I am now. And so I have the same aspirations. I want to create environments where young people get where I can sow into young people's lives and teach them whatever skills I have, so that when they get to a position where they either want to do something or not, they have all the resources. And this, there've been some young worship leaders that I've taken an interest in and tried to teach them all that I can. And I always wins, when you finish high school and you want to make some extra pocket money, you could play keys somewhere. You could play guitar somewhere for weddings and stuff like that. It's never a waste of a skill to learn.
Yeah. And no skill is a waste.
No waste is a skill to learn. No skill is a waste to learn.
No skill is a waste to learn.
So even if maybe that's not your passion, you don't want to do that for the rest of your life, but while you're still coming to youth or doing young adults and in high school or whatever, learning something and trying to really perfect it is never a bad thing.
So that's the case with coffee.
Yes, just that too as well.
Example, my first jobs out of out of university or whatever was coffee. It was good that we learned and
and so you get to go into the world with something, And yeah, it could be a weekend job or something like that, but there's something in there. And I think a lot of self discovery happens in those teenage years as well.
Yeah.
And if someone is there holding your hand and walking you through everything that you have to navigate, because it's not always like spick and span. Like there's always
Yeah.
a lot of turns. You know, sometimes it doesn't go as well as you thought it would the first time or the third time, or like it's never how you imagine it. So
Yeah.
those people, young people, need like that helping hand, that voice that just keeps telling them to go on, and like
Yeah.
even before they realize that they're starting to like slumber or something like that, you know. Um, yeah, so I think I hold the same regard in terms of wanting to create ways or opportunities or environments where young people can develop, and like most of it will come in the way of creativity for me, music,
yeah,
writing,
yeah.
and all of that stuff. But yeah, I have some cool ideas that I've just written down that I would like for us to like sort of look at. Those are just things that interest me. I just have this like I like to think about random things
I know
and like
you too well, though.
and try to like see how far I can get with an idea. Yeah. So I'll start with this one because you said something very interesting. You said you were still developing your personality and not finding yourself. You were very intentional with the word choice that you used there. Like I was developing my personality, not finding myself. Inputted what you said.
Yeah.
So I had this like notion or idea, like if see, I'm gonna read it. As a child forms their identity, they start imagining a future where they either want to escape from you, surpass you, or simply make you proud and earn your love. That thought begins as a powerful series of behaviors, you know, almost like a daydream that never stops. Imagine your whole life as a daydream, one driven by that thought, whether it's to escape, love, or become like your parents. Right? That thought is so strong that it becomes your reality, shaping your every action and every decision. You grow as you grow, you live out this dream, right? But it feels slow because the thought itself is so consuming. It needs to happen, and it needs to happen over time. That thought becomes everything. Your entire life is shaped by it as you work to make that daydream a reality. Like, because I was thinking, when do you decide that these are my plans? And these are my life plans.
Yeah.
You know? When do you make that decision? Almost every day, but you're making that decision for everything in life. So these are my plans in terms of marriage.
Yeah.
You know, I'm starting to shape my life in the way that, and then maybe for high school, it's like I want to become a rugby player or something like that.
Do you think
And
most people think that way the whole time?
well, I think it's more subconscious than
Oh,
conscious.
okay.
I'm sure there's people that think about it consciously.
Consciously, yeah.
But I think, and that's the question, is that
Oh.
as a child, there is a point where you go, hey, I want to make my mom proud. But
Yeah.
it will take a series of actions and behaviors. And you can't perform them in one day and see the
Yeah.
results in one day. So it becomes your whole life. Your whole life becomes me wanting to make my mom proud.
Yeah.
And I'll take an opportunity today, I'll take an opportunity tomorrow, and then your whole life becomes that daydream. Like
Yeah.
I dream of making my mom proud. So your whole life becomes that.
Yeah.
And the thought is so powerful and so big, it remains with you all your life. Like the plans that you had for your life when you were young. I want to be a doctor so that my mom could be proud. I want to have money so I can buy anything I want to for my mom, or like for my
Yeah.
family. Like that remains such a powerful thought that you have a lot of things can transpire in your life, but you don't lose that thought. You don't lose the idea that I still want to make my mom proud, and you almost like weave it into this tapestry of life, and that's happening simultaneously for everything, and that does make a human being quite a powerful machine in terms of
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I am now. I want to focus really on the parents part of it, like how how do you think that whole thing has influenced your life? Like I'm sure there's there's dreams that you had about your life in conjunction to your mother and your family.
Yeah.
How has that shaped you now as an adult and growing up?
I think like I can only know this in retrospect. And I was gonna say I'm glad you came back to parents because I thought this randomly before we started talking. But in the same way as we say some people are doof.
Yeah.
And some people are like, you know, so, no offense, but some people are like they're not very
sharpest tool in the
clever,
shed.
yeah. And then some people at certain things.
Yes,
you know?
absolutely.
And then some people are not. I mean, are better
Yes.
at things, you know. And I think the same is true of parenting. Like, think of a dumb person that you know. You don't have to say their name.
Yeah.
I've got a very specific person in mind, which I'm sure is the same as you from some time ago. But that person is not always. Like, you don't just grow up and then all of a sudden you've got it all figured out.
Yeah.
Like, if you're dumb when you're 20,
Yeah.
you're probably going to be dumb when you're 30.
A relative dumb.
Yes.
For 30-year-old.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're not just going to know unless, obviously, you know,
You have an
encounter
epiphany or something happens,
something
yeah.
interrupts your dumbness. But generally, like, if you weren't very sharp when you're 30, I mean,
Yes.
20, 30, 40, like,
It's
you
probably,
know?
yeah.
Yeah, especially with things that take attention, like kids. And I mean, you can be good by accident, which is,
Yeah.
I think some people are good by accident. I'm not a psychologist, by the way. This is just like how I view
Yes, yes.
life.
And just like none of this is gospel. We just talking
Yeah.
from our points of view. And
Yeah.
if you just take what you take and help it shape your opinion of the subject,
Yeah.
like not professionals in any of this, so
Yeah.
don't even worry.
All right. Yeah. So anyways, I think some people are not sharp. And some people... Now, obviously, I've got a bias towards my mother. It's like
Yeah.
you know... I'm going to segue a little bit. That's the difficulty I had with my dad, is that on observation, he's such a brilliant person.
Yeah.
So there was always a gap in like, you're such a brilliant person. Why are you like this? Because everyone respects you. When you talk sense, and you've got it, like you've got your life together in some sense.
Yes.
And obviously this was in relation to him not being around all the time and all this stuff. So that, I don't know, if I had to sit in front of a psychologist, maybe they would make sense of that for me and how it played into my development.
Yes.
I don't, until about 12, 13, I don't remember particularly thinking I want to make my dad proud. When I was 13, I remember my mom coming to watch a rugby game and going like, oh, I want to do well because she's here.
Yes.
The rest of the time, I was quite happy to do well just because I liked doing well in my head.
Yes.
Like, and that's another thing. Yeah, early on, you don't decide what talents you're going to be given and stuff like that, and what you're going to work on.
Yeah.
So I can't be like, I worked so hard on this. Maybe it's just because I was an Eastern Cape kid who grew up playing outside, chasing cows, or trying to ride goats and all that kind of. We literally tried to do that. So all that stuff maybe toughened me up a little bit and made me a bit like athletic, and so I can't like.
Yes.
You know, and then my mom's role was that the
It's like your
open-mindedness to they say that, I don't know, something about the something mother necessarily fails, so she turns you out to face the world and take on its challenges at the risk of you getting hurt.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful that my mom was like that. She's like, go play outside, and then she'd facilitate that by whenever she could, and you could, like in hindsight especially, you can see that we didn't have the things that everyone else had, but where she could, she would provide, and she'd try to get you the thing that you're going to grow with. So if I'm grade 4, I'm getting a cricket bat the same height as me.
Yes.
But she got like a quality one that I can use for the next few years. So we got to try fishing, we got to try cricket, rugby, swimming, surfing, everything, and to her best of her ability, she'd facilitate that process and supported when she could. So she came to 1 or 2 athletics days. She came to 1 rugby game that I remember. That kind of stuff, that really meant something to me. It felt to me like the drive was already to do well.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying. I liked playing. I think that's another thing. Me and my brother liked
just
playing. Yeah. So it was, you didn't have to force us or take us to extra lessons to make us. It was just wherever there was something to do. They had karate, we did it. They had taekwondo, we did it. Anything that someone came into town and said, we're offering this thing, and it was free, especially free, I would do it. The only reason I stopped reading in primary school is because the library was free, and then I was late to return a book for 21 Rand.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I stopped reading
Yeah, like,
because I didn't have 21 rand. So
That
as long as something
was
was
expensive for
bruh,
that long ago,
for
actually.
2004 or 5, bruh.
Yeah, that's like,
Yeah.
that is expensive for that long ago. I'm
So, and
thinking
my mom
about
was
it.
like, bruh, you got yourself in this mess. You got to get yourself out. So, you know.
Yeah.
Same with guitar. She bought me a guitar. I broke the string. And I had no clue where to buy strings or how much they were. And she was like, you're going to solve your mess.
Yes.
So I didn't carry on with that because, yeah.
And it is that, bro. Like you did, you touched on something that really spiked my my curiosity a bit, because I think that's that's the thing that I'm trying to like assert. Like you said, you don't particularly remember wanting to make your dad proud, right? But then you also said when you began to speak, you said I see this now in retrospect, right? So the reality is, at least from my point of view, the reality is something is informing your decisions. Right? So you realized at 13 that your decisions were, or like how you played, was informed by seeing your mom present to come and watch you.
Yeah, on those days it felt
On
like
those
if she was
days,
there,
yeah.
then you really want to do well.
And then you really want to
yeah.
do well. But may I propose that you've been already doing that since like a very young age.
Yeah, I
You've
can
already been
imagine.
doing that, but maybe not like very conscious of it.
Yeah.
And you explained about your dad and how you saw him as an excellent how you could see him as perceive him as an
brilliant
excellent
person,
man. And when he speaks and like all of it has like probably like a good reputation in community and all of that. But you felt a disconnect with how you related to him, with him not maybe being around, right?
Yeah.
And again, you said that saying it in retrospect, but there was some kind of...
So I became aware of that around 12, 13. That's what I'm saying. In 12, 13, I can acknowledge more that it wasn't my mom so much. Yes, sometimes when things are really tough and your mom does something like that you can see she's sacrificed for.
Yes.
Then you go, I want to make my mom proud in that regard. I can remember those moments when I was older, 12, 13.
Yeah.
And then I can also, because that thing is like a cycle in some senses, like, why is my dad not stepping up in this moment?
Yeah.
You know? And
so children see that.
Yes,
That's
and so you pit it. Doesn't help that your mom tells whatever story she tells.
Yeah, there's also
because then again I grew up even more, and then I met my other side of the family, and they have their side of the story to tell. Yeah, I'm saying those things work in a thing. So there was a stage where I was more like, say, I don't know if I'm at liberty to say this, but my brother said something to that regard when we were older now, after my dad passed, that he was disappointed about a way I dealt with something because he thought we were on the same page. Because when we were kids, we had discussed it and we were on the same page. We were like, hey, bruh, we're going to become successful.
We're in agreement.
And we're going to show this guy that we don't need him kind of vibes, you know? And so that was driving some of the decision making. Not all the time, because I mean, I still, like I said, I got into high school and I didn't work particularly hard to be successful at anything.
And some aspirations really come from a good place.
I like to just have fun as well. That's what I mean. I like to play and then you start something and you find that you're good at it, and then you push yourself. I find that there's kids that start something, then as soon as it gets difficult, they stop.
Yeah.
Or I want to try anymore. I'm the opposite. I would try something. If it's difficult without feeling impossible,
keep going.
I'm probably going to carry on. And then if there's people that I can run faster than at that age, that was like my marker for everything.
Yeah.
If I can run faster than you, there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to do this other thing that you can do faster than you as well.
Oh, yeah. See,
yeah.
That's actually cool.
So,
but like there is some concern in there. Like it means that it's a little bit like, sorry, it's just sparking a thought.
It's
like you group a person, like their whole skill and intelligence, and you go, if I can get you at one thing, I probably can get you at the next.
Maybe not intelligence, but because I've never tried to compete academically with anyone, except like obviously people in your maybe if someone I think is dumb and then they do better than me,
and you're like, nah, this ain't right.
but like the rest of the time, bro, I feel like it's reasonable athletically
to make
speaking,
that and I mean you're touching on something here which is cool, and I think I like a level of awareness about these things, so that at least if you're doing something, you like oh, like I can see why I wanted to run against my friend because I can swim faster than them.
Yeah,
So,
so
now I think I can run,
Yeah.
or I can, and
Who's to say?
now it's making me think of something else. Sorry, I may do that. I may just but
bounce.
I think of anything. Like, for instance, this year,
Yeah.
I sat down and I went, I don't need permission.
Oh,
Like,
fair
I don't
enough,
need permission
yeah.
from anybody to start recording this and doing this,
Yeah,
and then 10
yeah.
years later, I will have a lot of experience if I keep at it.
Yes.
And it's the same with like,
Bruh, that's shaped our last conversation about this is
it's like, who tells a businessman that they have permission to now be a businessman and be a successful? Nobody.
Yeah.
They go, actually, I'm just gonna do it. I don't need permission. I don't even need to be told how it's done. I'm gonna do it my own way, and if it succeeds, it does, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. And that's like everyone in the world, regardless of how successful, is a peer that you can learn from, compete with in a healthy way, and there's no level or sphere of society that you can't aspire to live in, you have permission to do it already.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. There's no gate you have to ask permission to get into in some sense. Well, I mean, obviously, like technically speaking, now you can't just be like, I want to be a doctor and then
obviously,
be a doctor because you said so.
Yes, there are parameters, and but getting through them is it's always possible. There's something that you can do to shape your life in a way that door can eventually open. And you just got to make that decision. No one is going to give you permission. You got to actually go, hey, I'm going to go and do this.
I want to go do that thing, and then I'm going to...
Yeah, and it brings this other thought. Like, I was talking to you about this, like, earlier on. Like, that artists, I'm going to say artists because I'm going to use them as an example, but this, I think it goes to everything. It applies to everything. Like, we don't have necessarily the best musicians in the world to date. We don't have the best musicians to date. We have musicians that didn't give up. Like,
that's the thought that's been
clocking
in my mind. But articulate that, because
there could have been people that are very talented that maybe stopped. After high school, they decided, I'm going to change my career. I'm going to do something else. They were like really good, right? But it never amounted to anything because they just gave up on the idea. And the only ones that eventually make it are the ones that just commit to the dream. They stick with it all the way. So they're not the best, but
they're the most persistent.
The most persistent,
the Kobe Bryant
and then
story.
Eventually they become the best we know.
Yeah.
They become our only option and therefore our best option. And it's like that with a dream. If you really believe in it and you stick around long enough, you'll eventually become the only person that's available to do the thing, right? Because others fall off. And then and not to say like musicians aren't good, they are, and we'll never really know if there's a person who's better than them.
So I think that's the real problem, is that you'll never know, and so that
you gotta
to talk
keep
to
at
things
it.
that you just gotta persist and try. That's
really
the only real way
it.
to find out, and nothing bothers a talented person than that question of what could have been. Like, what could have been. So I'll talk on, there's a kid in primary school who could draw.
Yeah.
Like really well. After me, like years after. Like in my years, I could draw. But I didn't care or was bothered. I'm too frustrated to sit down patiently. I mean, I could show you, like, I don't need to prove that I can draw. I think I can still draw reasonably well. But there was a time, like years later, where he's like studied art and he's like pursuing this thing. And maybe it's my ego talking, but I don't think he could draw as well as me.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Or I had that thing of like, I feel like, and
if you had developed that, maybe.
So it makes me think like, what could have,
Yeah.
What could I have been if I'd persisted at that?
Yeah.
And then there's other things like running. I just wasn't interested in it as much as I was rugby.
Yes.
And so then again, I think like, I ran a couple races in high school. I always came out top 3. I never ever trained for a high school. You wonder like,
what could have been
if I actually trained and persisted at the whole thing. And it doesn't bother me now. Like, I'm happy with
how your
my life.
Yes,
I'm happy with the direction God was taking me. And it might not have been. I could have still gone another, and God could still use me the same way. So I don't want to say this is God's fault. It's God in partnership with my bad decisions.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I fully
In
agree
partnership with his bad decisions, meaning God covers, and still works things for good.
the good. Yes.
Not that God is partnering with his.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for the clarification.
But
yeah, and so just to bring this thing full circle, because from our last conversation when we brought this up, it's made me like so hot and bothered about the things that I want to do. That I'm like, bro, I just start. And I had that mindset beginning of this year that like, I'm gonna start something. I don't care how badly I started.
Yeah.
So then I started jiu-jitsu, and I was like half attending, half not attending, and like, look, I've gotten better at it. I'm not by any means good yet.
Yeah.
But I've made progress, and that, think of bar chords. There's a year where I thought, literally put down that guitar for a year because I just couldn't get bar chords. The time I decided to pick it up again and try.
learned them.
I can now reasonably like do it again. I don't really care about guitar, but it just makes me wonder what's possible.
Yes.
When you persist.
Absolutely.
That's
the first is like, if you've dreamt it, you have a vision, right? Or you have an aspiration. Now, you just gotta start, like you say. It doesn't matter how bad. You remember when I was like playing guitar when I started? Oh my gosh,
it was annoying. But I mean, I'd been there before you.
Yeah, it was bad, right?
Like, shut up, nigga.
It was bad, and I remember just going, I need this. Like with where I want to go, I need is if I want to be a worship leader, personally, I don't want to be dragging someone along with me every time before I can lead a worship set. I wanted to be able to do it. So I was like, I'm committing here. And I have to say I had like a grace for it because someone just gave me a guitar, and I also just had like such tenacity and drive. I would sit there for hours and just do it and never get bored. And that's like, there were some people that supported me along the way, and like whenever I had questions. And so again, it comes down to that thing, like, how can I now, knowing how much grace was around me learning and becoming the person that I am, or doing the things that I needed to do to learn and become the person, how can I now, with my knowledge, just go and make it so much more easier for the next person? Just be in there and invest and invest and keep them going, because I know along the way it will help them.
It's almost, you just want to put the opportunities in their way so that it's not wasted. When the thought comes to mind, they have a way of acting on the thought. But I wanted to bring this back to parents and what you're saying about their influence. There's that, but you touched on something else. So I think parents push you from the back if they're good parents. They turn you to face you and encourage you to go away, and they shape how you think about things. So there's some parents that are, be careful, don't, and so you might develop like a careful demeanor.
You mimic what you surrounded by.
And if they call everything dangerous, you'll think everything is dangerous.
It's dangerous,
So there's that part. I don't know about like the details of it, but I think they obviously have their way of like, I mean, you want to make your parents proud. Then there's the naturally being a child, where you want to compete with your friends if that's something you do. And I think the opposite of that is not wanting to look bad in front of your friends. I think some people don't try things just because they're afraid to be bad at it, and they're trying to save face. There's
and
that.
Maybe that even applies with parents and stuff like that. You don't want to let them down, so you don't even try to do the spelling bee competitions and stuff like that.
Exactly. You don't want to see them fail, and holding them back from failure is like the worst thing you can do for them. But then I was going to say the third thing that you've just mentioned now, though, that I'm obsessed with, is the idea of a vision. I know that like when I was in primary school obsessing with rugby, and that made me choose rugby over athletics in high school, even though it's like not a clever decision. Like if you look at the numbers, you're like, hey,
in hindsight,
you could get colors and you could be like important to some people, and I didn't care about that. I really wanted to play rugby, and you know what I'm saying, to the point where like I played all the rugby I could play, and then like lucky with God's wisdom, like let it down gently and be like, okay, realistically you're done, but you've had a fair shot. I couldn't complain and say I wasn't given a chance or I didn't try. I left knowing that like all the opportunities are there, but the vision is the thing I want to come back to, is that like I think it's such a big component that people miss out on for whatever you want to do, whether you're a parent trying to direct your kids or yourself trying to, when you get an idea of where you want to go with the thing or where it could take you,
Yeah.
you're so much more likely to
Stick with it.
Yes, to stick with it for the long run.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's just something you happen to be good at or just something you tried along the way and there's no compelling vision to sustain you through the difficult whatever,
Yes.
you're not
Less likely
yeah,
to
you're
come
less
out
likely
on top
to
at that
yeah,
thing.
you know. Like I learned guitar to try win a girl back. As soon as that prospect was gone and she's dating someone else, I was like,
Oh well.
you know.
Yeah.
That was the second time around in high
Yeah.
schoolish, but primary school I just.
And you're
liked
leaving me
guitar.
with a thought here. It's like if you are, whenever you think of your dreams, and I think, whenever you think of your dreams, try to hold them in a very high esteem. Try to
Yes.
try to see yourself being the very best. You know, it's like that. Aim for the
Aim for the
shoot
moon.
for the star. What aim for?
It's shoot for the moon. If you miss, you'll land amongst the stars.
Yes, like that.
That's my motto, bro.
I'm thinking about the song. There's that song, "Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon" by a rapper.
Oh, I don't know
Now
that
I'm thinking
song.
about that. But just
I don't know that song.
so it's like really dream really big. You know,
Yeah.
really, really, really big, and you will carry yourself that way. And Jordan didn't become Jordan by shooting threes an hour a day. He probably was
Yeah.
doing it for long. John Mayer
Yeah.
apparently was like he would lock himself in a room for 8 hours and play guitar every day, you know? And like, I mean, that's a little bit crazy.
Yeah. Look,
but
I was gonna say there's sophistication to the methods.
he became
They
as
can
like as good as 8 hours makes you, you know? And
if it
so
doesn't kill you.
if you hold if you hold your dreams or yourself in an esteem, you will actually carry yourself that way, and it will be evident in how much time you put in, how much practice. Because for me to get there, I really need to put in work, right?
Yeah.
And so it actually it paints a very nice trajectory for your life. Like you can almost. It's that thing. Show me your friends. You can almost see where this
you'll
person
go,
is probably going to
yes.
land because of how they've
Much they're
shaped
investing
their
now.
lives.
Yeah. So the way
And
you
so-
invest now is gonna, and that's so last thing. But this is also because we're talking for young people, which is
Yes.
great. I did this thing when we were talking for Peace Foundation where I put life on a line, and we imagined that the life expectancy was 75.
Yeah.
We were generous. I mean, not what's the
Yeah,
opposite?
10 years after retiring.
Yeah, let's say whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But if you think about like that, and the people I was talking to were 13. But if you give up on your dream when you're 13 years old because it seems too far,
Yeah.
you're signing up for what's 75 minus 13?
No, don't do this.
Anajan, help us.
It's
75 minus 13.
60.
It's 50 something. 50?
60.
Nah, you need guys.
Yes, it is.
Is it?
62.
Take away 10
Yeah,
and
65,
60, then what is
60,
it? Okay, whatever. The point is, so you've got 60, you see, minus 13, you've got 62 years
of
average.
potential regret as
Yes,
well.
of potential regret, of average, of never knowing, as opposed to like
Giving it a full
a
blast
shorter time
shot.
of like, of effort, of sustained effort.
Oh, I
You
see
know what I'm
what you
saying?
mean. Yeah.
Like, so they showed that thing as like a kid's like, I hated my parents because they made me go to piano recitals every after school for 20 minutes when I was in. But then when you turn 18 and you're playing with the Philharmonic Orchestra and you've got the top end of opportunities when
Yeah.
it comes to where you want to study and all the rest of that stuff,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, that early years, what's of the
Yeah.
investment, and it makes you popular like, if for no other reason. To be at the top of any hierarchy makes you popular with
Makes
the
you
girls.
popular, yeah.
This is why we do things, though. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Right? So, especially as younger people, I'm saying,
Yeah.
so...
You've had an opportunity to do your 10,000 hours before everyone else.
Yes, and it makes you better sufficiently early.
Yes.
And then you can find out what could have happened. You never have to live with... It's just the time spent regretting that...
It is nice
you know?
when
So
parents do that.
So I was trying to show them the timeline of going, your life is longer than you think.
Yes.
And this time for regret is also
Longer
than you think.
Yeah,
So-
even more than the effort. Like, if you look at someone who studied graphic design in 2006 to 2010,
Yeah.
and then maybe did their masters, that's an extra 2 years or something like that. And then they will work for the rest of their lives, and they're getting a pay bump every year for the rest of their
that's what I'm
lives.
saying. You're playing the long game.
Yeah.
Anytime you invest in something, a talent, a skill, whatever, you're playing the long game. And with the analogy of shoot for the stars, I mean, shoot for the moon. If you miss, you land amongst the stars.
Yes.
If you try something and fail, you generally still end up in a better place than someone who never tried
Never
it all.
tried at all. Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So, but yeah, that I bet, like, it's like, again, fat people, not general, but like, take a fat kid.
Yeah.
If you're gonna tell a fat kid at 13 years old that like, oh, hey, sharp, you're just cool, just stay.
The way you are.
You know, you're ruining 60 years of their potential future. And the
yeah.
later they start, like, the more difficult it is. But
Yeah.
they could start like working on themselves for the 5 years of high school.
Yeah.
And we can agree in hindsight that like the person you are after high school is so much more important than who you were in high school. People
yeah.
forget those 200 people to 1,000 people you are with in the school.
Yeah, in the school.
You don't know half of them anymore. Not even half. You don't know any of them.
Yeah.
But
and
then
it's
you
awkward
come-
when you see them sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
I've forgotten your name, but hey.
You see? So then there's a group of people you meet after that, and even
Yeah.
they, for university, we all talk fancy about, oh, I'm going to become a chartered
Yes.
accountant, this and
Yeah.
that. We're selling each other dreams, but we don't act on them. But you're still going to have to be, live your 30s and live your 40s and live your, you know?
And it's like what gets me is how impressionable young people actually are, and the responsibility I feel from anyone who's past a certain age and has an inclination or like an understanding on how things work, you know, they have a responsibility to whoever follows them to really try and educate them or tell them,
Yes.
or not to be to
Not to discourage that.
yeah, discourage or maybe inspire the wrong, lifestyle or something like
Yeah.
that. Because, like you said, if I affirm a behavior that I know full well, like for instance, school, like I skipped varsity, but not entirely by choice. Like I do come from a background where I couldn't afford to go to school and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I did find another way to learn, and like on a practical level, I applied myself
Yeah.
still. But I can definitely say I can say with full conviction that life would be so much better if I went to school. Like if I went to varsity and did my 4 years or 6 years in varsity, if I had that
Yeah.
opportunity, and life would be 10 times better, right? And so I would never, without good reason, discourage someone from going to
get
varsity.
an education,
Like I could
Well, unless they're gonna, we could get into the weeds of that, but
yes.
I mean,
That's
there's
why I
some
said
stupid
without
degrees and
good
stuff like that,
reason.
yeah,
There
yeah.
are but sometimes, and I'm trying to apply this for a lot of things.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Like once, if you maybe did it a certain way, or like I became a businessman just by chance, or like
Or
work,
inheritance or
hard
whatever.
work ethic, or like whatever. So maybe you want to go, varsity is it's a waste of time or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if that's such a great
That's not the
attitude.
most helpful
you know,
thing to-
yes,
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's better to just like encourage the best thing for the young person that's growing
Yeah.
up. And that's what I was saying. Young people are so impressionable. Now, this doesn't only just apply to what you say verbally. It's also just how you live. You know, I think if you can do this, if you decide that you want to do this, be an example to like young people,
Yeah.
because they're watching you, and we are all a cocktail of inspiration. Like you watch your mom and how she does things, and then
Yeah.
you like take a part of that. You watch your brother, and then you take a part of that. You watch a friend, and you take a part of that.
Yeah.
And you are also trying to be, you're trying to impress them with talking to them and doing all of this, so they influence a certain behavior out of you.
Yeah.
Right. So just always try to be the best that you can, because
Yeah.
someone is
also
watching.
the best example. Yes, so
Yes.
that's what you're saying as well.
Yes, because someone is watching you, and
Yeah.
you are influencing them, you know, and especially young impressionable minds.
Yeah.
Like we can't live in the arrogance and ignorance that, oh no, I'm just living my life. Like it's not influencing anybody. No, it is.
It is.
You know?
Whether it's positive or negative,
Yes,
it's definitely
it
influencing
absolutely is.
life somehow,
And
yeah.
it may not be, you may not be accountable. However, like you can make yourself accountable,
Yeah.
you know? And I feel that is what do you call, I'm trying to think of this word. Like when something is like a responsibility?
Oh, I don't know, incumbent upon
Yeah,
us, or our
I think it's
responsibility?
incumbent on you to pay it forward to society,
Yeah,
like it has
yeah.
for you. Imagine like you grew up around a country that's like full blown rebels and like there's war and stuff like
Yeah.
that. You know, that's unfair on you coming onto the world
Yeah.
and learning those ideas as well.
Yeah.
Like, and then you go and commit the same
Perpetrate
heinous
the same
crimes.
thing,
And,
yes,
you
bro.
know, so like I think there's a
I hear you.
responsibility to the community that raised you to do the same for others, protect their future.
And even if they didn't do it for you, like even if they
Yes,
didn't raise you,
absolutely.
you still. So
If you
wha-
see it, just
yes,
rather.
one of the content things we were writing was like I like to do this discussion about the power of choice. That I
Yeah.
call it that for lack of a better phrase, but we just debate that. We say you always have a choice, and then create scenarios where you agree or disagree,
Yes.
right? And I think it's so important to know that. Well, the story they tell. Let me rather tell you the story. They say there's a guy who's a drunk and an alcoholic, and he beats his wife, and he's just like,
Yeah.
you know, hates kids. Just to think of, and when they ask him why he's like that, he tells his upbringing,
Yes.
right? And he says, my dad used to come home and do the same, and he'd beat me for no reason. If my mom defrosted the veggies a minute late, it was like, you know, rumble in the jungle.
Sorry, that, it's
No, it's
just
not
the
funny.
veggie
No, it's
thing.
not funny, yeah.
The veggie thing was funny though.
Yeah. It was meant to be.
Okay.
But yeah, everyone. So there's that, and then they go find a really good person,
Yes.
a community builder person, who loves their family and loves their kid and whatever. And they ask him, "How was your life that made you like this?" And the big crescendo of that story is supposed to be that they actually were brothers. So they,
One chose the inverse.
yes. So, and the point we try to make is that, and it's a harsh thing to say, like that despite your circumstances,
Yeah.
or despite your environment that brings you up, or what you had or didn't have, you still have a choice
Yeah.
of how you respond to that
Yes.
challenge. You can say, my environment was like this. It makes sense that I'm like this.
Yes.
That's a choice whether you think so or not.
Yeah.
Then there's people who say my environment was like this.
I will choose to.
I'm choosing to be something completely different from it. You know.
And I think inspiring or reinforcing or affirming that idea is also part of the responsibility that we have
Yeah.
to go to teach younger people that like no, like your circumstance is not
It's not the
doesn't
final say,
doesn't
yes.
have to define you. Like I could have just gone, oh well, I can't afford to go to school, so
and
I'm
a
just
person
going to
from
sit down.
Kamalake
But
becomes
I'm-
like this, and
yeah,
all those
yes.
things. Yeah.
And like a lot of them are like that. Like a lot of people that I grew up with went to the same schools with. Like some of them died because they were drug addicts and they got like
Yes,
like
they
they
just
got
went
into
the way you
crime and stuff
expected
like
to
that.
go when you come from that
I could have
environment.
easily gone down a similar route, but
Yeah.
there was a choice. I made the choice that like, hey, actually, like if I can't do this through varsity, I'm gonna try a different approach. You
Yeah.
know, but the main goal is to get out of this.
Yeah.
You know, and pursue a better life.
Yeah.
You know, and again, like I didn't ask for permission with that either. I moved here. My mom didn't even know I was in Durban. Like
yeah.
I just went. I'm doing this. Left into a big city by myself, just like figuring it out. I mean, there was help. Like my uncle, like he was very much involved in that. But I also had to convince him that I'm talented enough for him to invest in, you know. And that was also a decision that I started making long ago. And then, you know, and that's also the thing is that once you start doing that, once you start showing initiative and you're starting to invest in yourself, there are other people that will start to see that and they will start to sow into that. And then I think
it's
there's
like
a
luck meets
principle thing as
opportunity
well.
in some
yes,
sense.
I'm pretty sure there's a principle around
that
this.
whoever
Like,
has more will be given.
Yes.
Whoever has nothing, even that will be taken
even that
away.
will be taken. And
It's the person who sits on their hands loses even the skills that they did have.
yes.
And then the one who like actually tries to figure something out. Like apparently that I'm hijacking Jordan Peterson here, but he paints a thing with his finger of how that trajectory actually happens, of like when you actually start to try and apply yourself. I'm going to point it this way, how exponential the growth is upward, like when they measure it scientifically or whatever. That growth thing is so opportunity begetting opportunity and rising up, and that is such a peak.
Yes.
But it's also true the same
on the other end
reverse, is that
of
if you
the
let
curve.
yourself slide too far backwards, the drop off is steep.
Yes,
from
yes,
like
yes,
having little to having none.
Yeah.
And there, the choice in the middle is where the choice is to like take, okay, what do I have? What have I been handed, and how do I?
Yeah.
How do
And I think there's a principle there.
Can
Like,
I tell you a
obviously-
crazy idea that you gave me? Just because before we ran away from it.
Yeah.
Face of our last conversation. I started thinking about going back to write my matric. And I got a bachelor's pass, bro, and I've been 10 years, 11 years out of school.
I got the same,
like,
and
there's no need.
I've thought the same too.
And then an ad popped up. I was like, this could be a sign, bro. Like, what? Because I always wondered, what if I applied myself?
Yes.
Because I didn't, like, the times I wrote matric, I
You were
didn't.
like, yes,
I was just writing
yes.
matric. I didn't,
And some things were important to you in high school
Yes,
that weren't that are not in the grand scheme of things. They're
that aren't
not,
as
and
important
they
anymore,
distracted
yes.
you or whatever. And now, with a more sober mind, you're going back and going, actually, like if I had just like given it. If I had given it the days that I needed to give it to study, actually, rather than just hang out.
Done really. I want to know what I could have. What's called. The other part of me doesn't want to find out because what if I apply for myself?
Might be a very
find out that I'm
consistent
dumb,
person.
yeah. So I go apply myself for a whole year and find out my methods don't work. But that would actually stop me from teaching what I.
But there's no
teaching
faith.
Kids what I teach kids.
There's no faith that is wasted. I believe.
Yeah.
Like you said, something about the rugby thing. What you learned there. There is something that you learned there that has added value into your life still. And even if it's just learning discipline for a season, you know, that's enough.
Right.
And one day,
shape,
another thing is going to fall on your lap. Another opportunity is going to fall in your lap. And that same discipline that you learned with that dream that didn't come to fruition, you're just going to apply the discipline that you learned this side onto this.
I could to testify to your story in some regard in two ways. One, like being in shape. I've always found it hard to, contrary to what I said earlier about fat people.
Yes.
I'm chubby too now. But
Hey, bro. Hey,
I've always found it
just
difficult. I've always found it difficult to criticize fatter people because I didn't at the time choose. I'm going to be a fit, healthy person.
You just had the
liked
genes
playing outside.
at that time.
And like playing outside, and I was given the opportunity. And then obviously there's choices along there. I chose I want to play rugby, I want to run, and all this stuff. But I wasn't thinking about my physique first. I was thinking about participating in a sport. But
sorry, may I just interject? Sorry.
Yeah.
Because there's something I want to say here. I like how you're saying you understood how much it wasn't so much of a choice for you.
Yeah.
And I think it's this, like, with finances generally, or background or lifestyle, you know? Like, you are saying if, like, poor people, for instance, generally they end up maybe going into crime. Like, generally they will
more
end
likely
up
to,
more
say,
likely, right? I like the fact that you have some empathy still for how
a person gets to.
Yes. You're not encouraging it, obviously, but like that understanding of there was not a lot of effort for me to not become a criminal. I went to school, I had food on my plate, you know, like there were things that lined up life in such a good in such a way that made it easier to stay out of crime. And I think part of being a human being and empathizing with society and people is understanding such a principle. Is that, like, if it was easier for me to stay out of certain things, maybe that's how you even begin to help people out of those situations. If you have that
some
kind
sort of empathy for the whole thing. I totally agree with that.
Cool.
But so I was saying, so I couldn't criticize. I find it difficult to criticize the fat kids or whatever the point may be for, say, being I'm in shape, but some of that was like opportunity and stuff like that, and that led me to to be in good shape or whatever. But more to your point, if I can remember it correctly, I was trying to say that I'm going to talk about opportunity begetting opportunity in something else, or this thing opening a door in another sense. Is that when we moved out of the city, I was praying for a flat because we had one day that I always find myself in this situation. Where on the last day praying, you haven't found the place. And then we find a place that's up the road from Kings Park Stadium.
Yes.
Now, the way I saw that, I was like, thank you, God. You've put me where I want to be because I want to play rugby. That's
the rugby house thing.
I'm right near the rugby houses. Yes, I want to be at Rovers or Collegians.
Yeah.
You've put me near my dream.
Yeah.
Actually, if you look back now over the past 10 years, I was put somewhere where I could walk past Mike and he'd say, come to church. And then I worked at church for 10 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But, again, the pursuit of the rugby dream,
still contributed to
put me in a position to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
no faith is wasted.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was thanking God for this thing. Meantime,
Yeah.
He's actually got something else in mind that's potentially better than the thing that
absolutely.
I had in mind for myself. So yeah, no
That's
faith
cool.
is wasted
And
physically and
like
philosophically.
on a principle level. And like I think the same for me. Like I came here as a rapper making music, and what quickly escalated to like a very bad lifestyle and whatever. And then I got so desperate I ran to a church, and then actually realized, hey, like I want to be a worship leader, and then like grew and made and developed relationships, and you know, like my life has turned out so much better than I could maybe even dare to say than it would have if I remained a rapper. You know. But
that's also the principles thing, bro. Because I think maybe like rugby works out, but I think if I had a rugby career without the
without the backbone
of church and the learning myself and stuff like
how
that,
humble, how nice, and how alive would you still be?
Yeah,
there's
yes,
like
I wouldn't have these principles
things.
of work hard and apply. Especially once I'm so complacent that like once I get to some semblance of the top. So this was my attitude in high school.
Some superstardom, you start to
make A team.
Gucci,
if I'm in the traveling teams, that's all I needed. So my mindset would have probably been like, I'm in the team.
Yes.
And then just like go enjoy Stellenbosch for the other side of the culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would have probably done 10. I'm not like I've been spared from that in the last 10 years, but it was a lot less worse that if I was not intently quite focused or God wasn't kept in the center of my...
It's kind of like that lottery thing, like when people win the lottery. It changes their lives in one day, and then like, where to from here? And then actually what you find, I could even maybe say in the pursuit of some kind of risque or like a pursuit of feeling life again, they actually just ruin everything. You know? because I think like part of life is enjoying the actual journey. It should take long. You should strive for it. You should have mundane days in it. And then celebrate the little victories until eventually like you get there. And it must always be suspenseful. Like so that it's exciting and it's part of life, rather than just like next moment everything has changed.
But I tried to tell that to teenagers, it's impossible. They don't believe. They're like, give me the money.
Give
me the money. Let me try it for myself.
Well, you go like, I want the Lord to tempt me with the no, Lord, tempt me with the 10 million, you know, or like a life-changing career that like basically flips everything upside down.
And you have to see how many people actually stood that really well.
And it's not a lot.
Yeah, Mike Tyson say that someone came to his door and he was broke, and they asked him how he was doing, and he was like, I'm happy. And then like why? He's like, bruh, I've got nothing, and no one like. He's not afraid of the vultures anymore. He was like, there's no... Yeah, he was back to a normal life in some sense, and so maybe...
And it's part of life, and I think
you know
it's
what Billie
important.
Eilish, sorry to interrupt you, but she said it better. She said, I had a dream. I heard this, not from the song, from someone else referencing it. I had a dream, I had everything I wanted. Turns out it was a nightmare. And I was like, ooh.
Yikes.
And that is the thing, like of wishing. Imagine you got all your wildest dreams came true. Right? You had the G-Wagons, the RS3s, the M2s.
Yeah. And the insecurities that come with that, you never really know, hey?
And you don't realize that this is somewhat better, us working towards our dreams.
Yes. It builds the character to understand and steward it well, and I think a lot of it comes from how much you probably betray yourself when you get to those positions quickly. Like, you betray your own principles that you live by, your values, your morals, and it eats away at your being. And then you're just left in this tumultuous life, really. Where you have everything, but you just don't feel as connected anymore.
That's why they find it so easy to be like, money is not everything when they have it. Like, also,
but part of you also just, I want it. Let's see if I'll be like that. It is a tough one. I think you can live in peace if you know that you are investing and putting in what you can. And life is giving you whatever lemon it gives you.
Look, let's say it even gives you that 40 million, but you like a well put together person
yes.
who still understands the.
Yeah, and if it's not going well, you know that you've done your part, right? And
Yeah.
so you can have peace knowing that at least not at this moment. This is not for me
Yeah.
right now, and I just have to keep going. And
Yeah.
life will one day,
That's the thing about the choice, though. I said that to my mother when we were negotiating dropping maths in high school. She was so insistent that I don't drop it and I work hard, and maybe she was right, but I by some grace understood that I'm gonna sit, or maybe I was so scared of it that I'm gonna sit in the exam by myself, not with what my mother thinks. And when the results come out and people start offering themselves,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to navigate that's
Yes, you
particular
live with
thing.
the consequences of your
Yes,
choices,
of that
not
decision.
anyone
It's
else.
not gonna be her. And the same with university, when I'm like, I'm older than 18. This thing is in my name. They're phoning me, bro, asking me
Yes,
for university.
absolutely.
They're locking up my marks. All of the times it was like, man, this is me.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, go do this. Even the code 8, code 10 thing, all of those things, I'm like, I have to live with the consequences of these decisions. I know she
Yeah.
means well because she's trying to like
Yes.
protect me. And she's like, go into teaching. And I'm like, it's going to eat me if I... All those things I thought I'm going to have to deal with by myself.
I have to live, yes.
It's much better that
And that's an important thing I always say to Anna Jane as well. I go like, the most valuable thing for me that I've learned and understood is that I can surround myself with wise people. I can surround myself with people that will inspire me and to like reach my full potential and whatever. And people that will look out for me and be like, oh, maybe don't do this. And like, I value that fully. And I'll listen, I'll sit down. But I always go at the end of the day when I'm lying on my bed and looking at the ceiling, I decide that whatever I'll do, whatever I'll do. No, I don't like those guys. Not like them. I just,
I know, yeah.
But whatever I do, at the end of the day, I will have to sit and face those consequences of whatever happens.
Whatever the choices you have to be
regardless
like.
of how, which wise person came and said what, the decision at the end of the day needs to be mine.
Yeah.
I will
you'll
have
be
to live
able
with
to
that
live with it.
failure
That's the
or
funny
live
thing
with
is that
that
you'll be
success.
able to live with it most of the time.
Yeah.
As opposed to people who become bitter, cynical, and resentful of the whole world, and when they go out, they sort of like take someone with them because they're like, the world is unfair, and if only these things hadn't happened to me, life wouldn't have been like this. Like they end up going out and taking some people with them.
Yeah.
And they like feel like that's their big zappy at life because life.
Do you
was
think
the
there's
problem,
people
not
that
me.
are doing that so consciously and maybe like
There's consciously school shooters, and then subconsciously everyone else who's
like
just
I'm
like
just ruining other people's lives, like little by little, like I'm a bad influence and I know it, and I'm not trying to add value to anything.
I've got a question about that because so this is the same way I'm saying, like my dad wasn't a bad influence, but I thought of dad in the same way. So I'm like, when you talk, you make sense. You seem to be respected by everyone. Your life seems to be going quite well, which tells me that you're like a clever thinking person.
Yeah.
So what happens in your mind when you watch the shows on TV where they explore these topics? Does your conscience know at you knowing that you've got kids there that are like
I have something written
being affected
for that.
Oh, okay, but yeah, just for now, that's the thought that crossed my mind. So same for the gambler. When they're not the gambler, but this bad influence person.
Yes.
When they're on TikTok, for example, what decisions do they make in their mind? This is like my time has passed for this, or what? Like I don't know. You know, and you hear some people like, especially when they're in a group, like try to talk to a group of young kids. They say they're fighting, like a mob of them.
Yeah.
And they all have their cameras out. And you try to be the person that lectures them on why it's wrong and show them the light on it. In a group, they're not likely to respond ignorantly.
Yes.
And I think the bad influence is like that in the same sense. They go, this guy is just killing the fun.
Yes.
They don't give it much mind. Maybe when they go to sleep, that's the benefit of the doubt I give people when I argue with them is that you're going to go lie in your bed and look in the ceiling. And
you don't agree now,
but
let's just give it some time.
As long as you're going to lie down and think about it, that's what I mean. And
it's kind of like a kid. They'll be like, they'll eat, and then the parents will go, "You've had enough." No, but not enough. And then like 2 hours later, like,
yes.
exactly. They were in denial because it hadn't settled quite well.
Yeah.
But I wrote something, bro, along those lines. So I was thinking about the idea about like psychopathy, like psychopaths. I have and I I think there's so many, bro, like a lot,
Yeah.
and they're succeeding at being that. Like they get what they want. People conform to whatever they want. No one is like uh, disputing.
Oh yeah,
you
no
know,
one pushes back against them.
they're winning. They're getting everything that. And the ones that we know about are the ones that act out. Like maybe life doesn't go the way they want it, and then they end up like killing people or whatever, right?
Oh, yeah.
But what if psychopaths are more prevalent than we think? And
I think they might be. I might have watched something that says they
yeah,
are more.
like, and when did they decide to be that? Like, you take a tenant into your house.
That's what's called.
You get a tenant, and they like at your house living there.
Yeah.
And one day, like the trigger just goes, and now the psychopathy begins in your house.
Hey,
like,
bruh.
which day does that switch go?
Tick over into
And
what's called.
and have you always sort of carried the traits? And how did they look? And what triggering moments turn a psychopath into a violent one? And how can we live life navigating that?
Hey,
So-
bro, you're asking that like I'm a psychologist. I don't even have an opinion on
But
that.
bro, like,
I just think you're right. They are more than like
than we think.
than we think, and maybe society does a good. This is where like maybe we can get into taxes after this. But this is where I think taxes are meaningful because I don't have a lot to say about the psychopathy thing, but like or even society in general. This is where like the cohesive nature of everyone playing by the same rules, is meaningful. So the problem, like I'm gonna dot into townships quickly, that I've seen like when I go into township, is that there's a big mix of cultures in
one
a
place.
really just one place, a really small place.
Oh yeah.
So more numbers than should be in like each square mile, or I mean each whatever, you know what I mean?
And ideas differ too much.
Too much. So there's
no unwritten rules that we are all abiding by.
Exactly. So
Which proves the point that different areas have different laws, essentially.
Yes. So that creates like that makes room for the degeneracy. So a functioning society, I think, keeps psychopaths at bay because they've got outlets and like means of expressing themselves, and like you do something with that. Maybe you become like maybe Elon Musk is
a very driven one.
Yes, you see, maybe Elon Musk is what do you call those people? A psychopath, but he's able because of his condition to focus.
Focus it towards success.
And not just success. I'm saying on a specific meaningful task.
Okay, yeah.
That scratches that itch. I'm saying this very poorly.
Yeah.
He's got an outlet. Then where there's no outlet and like less opportunity and like too much chaos, you know what I mean? There's just, so let's almost say there's more triggers, there's more influences towards that, there's more of every bad thing to sort of make room for. So that's my uneducated opinion on psychopaths.
I wrote this
in a
on
functional
that
society.
How they get roped into to the idea of sanity and calmness is by creating great hub environments, like a community that works well. And this is how, even though they're probably prevalent in terms of the gene, or I don't know how actually.
Yeah, I don't know how it works either.
But in terms of the propensity to become one, and
or to act out,
how when like that. I wrote, what if psychopathy is far more common than we realize, but we dismiss it by only associating it with crime. Many people with psychopathic traits might not lash out violently. They might simply be excelling in society, navigating it with no desire for aggression. The ones we notice are the ones that lose control. And consider this, and here I don't even know what I was trying to say here, but what kind of commitment does it take to exist outside yourself, to observe your own actions, thoughts, and emotions from a detached perspective, and to know you are doing it? It's a profound state, perhaps unsettling, but it reveals something deeper about our awareness. It's like what the commitment it takes to be outside yourself and still do it. Like to be beside yourselves. You know, like you're insane. The commitment to know that something's wrong. I'm besides myself. Like, I'm not normal, but I still continue to
And
just live
commits
life.
to
do it.
do the abnormal.
It's
Yeah, I would wager, brother, that there are a lot to do. It's got, like you're saying, like a lot to do with the environment the society has created. Because there's moments, bro, like
yeah,
take the
like
guy-
you sitting there, like going like this, and you just go,
take the kid who. So I heard about this thing long ago, 2009 or something. The kid here in South Africa wore a Slipknot mask and cut
with the
someone with a samurai sword.
katana.
Yes.
Yeah.
He might have just minded his own business if people weren't teasing him, for example.
Yeah.
Or if teachers played their role in mitigating it as far as, and parents in the society play their role in terms of raising up kids that don't
And Slipknot. I'm
that aren't
joking.
as mean. And okay, like I wouldn't blame Slipknot
No,
as
no,
much,
no,
bro, 'cause
it was a joke.
yeah. Okay. And then the point of contact, like that victim that got their arm or their head cut off
Yeah.
after they took that picture might have not been a victim if they didn't.
Mm.
You know
So
what I'm saying?
it
I'm
was
not
the
blame-
reaction. It was
I'm not blaming the victim as such.
Yeah.
But I'm saying in a more
you saying there's consequence to even the environments
even
we
the society
allow.
we create. Yes.
Even if you're not part of the problem, but if you just allow it. Because I was thinking this about now I'm gonna go into government. Like there's a lot of you'll see like maybe let's say this community, for instance, like Durban North is like there's far less potholes, there's far less, and then you go to other places and it's really bad, like crime, potholes, maybe even corruption. And I go, I feel like if you are in any way, shape, or form connected to the government, and it's your duty to overlook everything, not just where you are, because that would mean that if you knew that your neighbor was abusing
their wife
and their children or like something like that, and it was hectic,
you'd keep quiet.
and you just keep quiet, like what does that mean? Like if there's a political leader here running things really well here in Durban North, for instance, but they know about the situation in Umlazi or somewhere, and they choose to do nothing about it at all. They know the procedure. They know the laws, the bylaws. They know where to go. They know, but the self-preservation kicks in instead of, challenging that, because you are the person we trusted as a government. You are the person we trusted as for the future of our nation, and it shouldn't just end in the borders of your community, because, like, there's someone who's doing an injustice on that side. Like, it's, I feel like it's a duty for you to, come together with other leaders and hold those people accountable and like try and find a solution. And it's not on that community only to do that.
Yeah.
Even surrounding communities must
ultimately,
it's their duty to
because what happens there is going to affect what happens here.
Absolutely, because now that's going to produce criminals, which are eventually going to come and
make your thing
and eat the
unstable.
rich, And so, inadvertently, everything will eventually affect you somehow. You'll be parked at a robot going somewhere, and someone will like smash and grab.
Yeah.
They're coming from the same area you left deserted, thinking it's not my problem.
Yes, yeah.
And again, no one asks for this, but it eventually just happens. In the same way that you are doing well and creating a good environment here, and children are growing up to be doctors and whatever, and they're saving lives somewhere else. Like there's
there's a fruit of everything, even the things that you neglect.
And so I think
deep.
It is, bro. And I think like it's so important. Like in the nicest way, but not so nice either. I just, if a person is sold on that, like the idea that this is my area, this is like, I don't have a lot of respect for that opinion, because those are still children, and if their parents meaning their leader is not taking care of them well, like to abandon that child in a world where they know nothing else but adults to take care of them, I think it's a duty for you as a grown up, a human being, to go and look after that child.
For me, it's a God conversation. I'll tell you how. not with God himself. I'm not saying it's his fault.
Yes.
I'm saying that a person who's got no complaint about morality and is saying, I just want to be left alone. Not even I just want to be left alone. I'm looking after mine. That makes sense because
It's in
it's
front of
natural.
me.
That
And
is not any of my business. Even if they're wrong about it, they're okay because one thing they're not going to do as well, or one thing they shouldn't be able to do then is to cry foul when something bad doesn't happen. They must be indifferent about the effect of the problem
Yeah.
that's happening as well.
Yes.
Not say it's unfair or protect me or any of that
Yes.
stuff, right? Because
You didn't
to
do
you-
anything to prevent it from happening.
not even if you did let's say you
Prevent
you-
the environment or like help the environment not become that. So you're saying if you're not going to hold an opinion in trying to resolve poverty or something like that, or some
Yes,
injustice in some
yes,
place,
don't hold an opinion in its effect.
when it has an effect.
Yes.
Yeah. I
Don't-
think that's fair.
And yeah, so that's why I said in the God says especially the morality of it, not so
Yeah.
much the act of it, because they will you will still be bummed when something happens to
Yes,
you,
yes.
and you'll be like, I
Oh,
paid
like-
my taxes, my society
Yes.
should protect me.
And that's
It's
yes,
true.
that's it's true. Like it's granted,
I paid my
it's
taxes.
good.
These people should.
Yes,
This is who I
absolutely.
complain to. I'm not gonna make any moral injunction on those people or the act that they've done.
Yeah.
Or if I do, I've got no basis for it. That's why I say it's a God thing.
Yeah.
It's the same as remember the theistic or atheistic
It
argument.
makes it
to the
tough,
sense of-
eh?
Well, it's not. I'm likening it to. I'm not saying it is that.
Yeah.
I'm saying
I'm
in the same way.
seeing it. I'm seeing
in
the
the same
value
way
of
as there's like not Christians, but theists and atheists, or that have a more what is the world view called? A naturalistic world view. When they have debates with the Christian side or the yes, when they just have
Apologetics. Apologists.
yes, apologists or any other kind of theist who says when they come to the point of morality, they say, why do you believe, do you believe, say, crime is bad? They put the hard ones there, like rape
Yeah.
and murder. And like a naturalist who was raised in our culture will still say yes. Yes, that's, and you say, do you say that's absolutely bad? And then they'll say, yes. And then say, based on what? That's not your preferences.
I see.
You know?
Yeah.
And then they're stuck because actually, if there's no lawgiver to say that that's objectively, then just leave them alone, let them kill because,
Yeah.
you've got no reason to cry foul morally if you,
That's hectic.
you know what I mean? But if you're a theist, you're saying that God has said that this is right or wrong. Those people's lives matter. Whether,
Because of so and so as well.
yeah,
That's
any
such a
moral
deep
claim
thing. Now it's making me wonder about this instinctually. Let's say there wasn't any like moral compass that's like written like the Bible or like whatever people believe, but like instinctually like you don't see even I think as cavemen we didn't have a desire to eat other people's children, like we'd
Yeah,
still go
but-
out and get
Yeah.
animals and eat animals.
Yeah.
You may not
The
not
problem
share
is
that
just that you
animal
can-
with another family or another tribe, but
yeah.
you're not gonna like go and hunt their kids.
Yeah.
So I think even intrinsically there's still like a care or like a person is like you, and so
Yeah.
you have an empathy, like a deep
That's
empathy.
that law written in your heart, though. That thing that says that these people are what, and but the problem is that there's an ability to override that.
Yeah.
If you go on instincts, it makes no sense that you shouldn't. Like if you're stronger than me,
I need to,
and I came with
I
this
want to
car that I
dominate
came with,
you.
when you need to get that way.
Yeah, I'm taking
My
your
G,
Mustang, bro.
Slap me, take the car, go. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? That's it.
I came here with a Golf 1, I'm leaving with a Mustang.
Exactly,
I'm bigger
because
than
I'm bigger and stronger than you.
Yeah.
Naturalistically, that would make sense, and I am not allowed to be bummed about it. I should.
Yeah,
I can
'cause
be
what are you
bummed,
gonna do?
But this is the order of the world. Yes, I can't.
you
cry
go and do
them
it to
for-
someone else.
The only people I could complain to is if I had paid some people or recruited some people to say, in this collection of people, we do things this way.
Oh yes,
Help me out.
and they bought into the idea. There was an agreement.
Yes, and they don't stand up to the agreement. I can be mad at them. Why don't you protect me? Why don't?
Yeah.
those other people we can't, which now in this thing that we talk about, you can't go to India if they are not they're eating people in India.
Yeah.
But if they were, you couldn't go, hey, stop eating kids there, because we've got no basis
Yeah, and like
outside of our personal preferences to say that's unequivocally wrong.
yeah, and it should, and
Yeah.
what you just spoke on now should apply also on just like if those people agree that we're not going to do crime, we are going to be a civil society because we can develop and have jobs and make money because
Yeah.
there's going to be politicians that will protect us and make sure that we get services and all of those
Yes,
things.
yeah.
If there's an injustice happening on those people, they should be mad at the rest of
The thing.
society
Yes,
for not
especially
protecting
because
them.
they pay taxes. I know we say
Yes.
they don't, but everything
They
you
do,
buy
yeah,
is,
absolutely.
gets
Like
taxed.
that, everything.
And you participate in the society every day by
Yeah.
waking up and going to work and all that, instead of saying, I don't want to play by these rules because these
Yes.
rules don't benefit
Yes.
me. And
And
you know,
that's a
doing
scary
your own
thought.
thing, yeah.
Like if it got to that, and I think it did for like a season.
yeah, the looting was people.
Was that? It's like they
an
just went-
opportunity at first, and then
and
actually.
then they went, yeah, like, because if you have a business or something like that, and I'm not saying like people shouldn't protect things if they don't have them, but
Yeah.
you're less inclined to like think like a business person or
Yes,
have
yeah.
empathy for that, and especially if, I mean,
Even if you don't have a business, you're less likely to think like a
yeah,
businessman.
yeah, and understand how much of a loss that actually
Yeah.
is. You know, you just see,
like that
oh, there's
reverse
so
that
much
you
money,
did.
there's insurance, I'm just gonna grab. You know,
Yeah.
and like, yeah, and also they are breaking a contract to these people.
Yeah.
They've
So
invested money and trusted that they will.
So you see, the government lets those people down, so they should be also going.
yes,
in
they-
this society, hey, bro, we bumped.
Yeah, they
then
are
that-
the
Yeah.
main caregivers in terms of that. Like that's
Yeah.
their sole duty. So, thank you for coming here, Lutho. I think this was the idea was to just sit, have some ideas, and just get into conversation about them. What I've said here, like I said earlier on, it's not gospel. We are not experts in anything. We're just two guys asking questions and receiving answers. And Lutho said something just now. How did you say it? Like
Alright.
it's better to ask questions and get answers, like about any subject. You know, we are not experts. This is not like the truth, but it gets a conversation going, and you can formulate thoughts and opinion around the subject. And I think that's what's healthy, and that's what we're trying to do here. So we're gonna pick it up next time with Lutho at another stage. I know we left you on a bit of a cliffhanger, but we'll pick it up another time, and we're gonna talk about other things.
Let us know what you think.
Yes, let us know what you think. He's also giving me pointers on what to say because it's like the first time. But let us know what you think and share this and let us know how we can improve this thing and you know the works. We also want to learn and grow, so feedback would be great if you can just get in touch with us in whatever way. And yeah, see you in future, and we're gonna have other people as well, and we're gonna have more discussions.